we made a little movie called Army of the Dead that was on Netflix. A couple people saw it. I guess whatever, 85 million, whatever it is, it's fine.
Welcome to Watch Mojo's Poppin the Culture, your weekly entertainment destination. And me, well, I'm your host with the most movies on his watch list. That's right, it's me, Mr. Hollywood himself, Matt Demers. Such a great show coming your way. I'll be speaking with some of the stars and the producer and director of the film Army of Thieves. Yes, that includes the one and only Zack Snyder. That's all coming your way. But first, let's jump into those Hollywood headlines. All right, for those that know and for those that don't know, this is the part of the show where we like to have a little bit of fun, dig in and dissect some of those more interesting developments out there in Hollywood. And of course, I always need help doing it. And he's back to help me once again. One of my favorites at Watch Mojo. Ricky is here. Hello, Ricky.
Hey, Matt. How are you?
Thanks. I'm doing fantastic. Great to see you as always. I'm hoping you can bring some hot takes with you today because I got some stuff I want to chat about. I'm going to start. Okay, I need to put down my coffee because it might get a little heated here for this first topic. There's a movie coming out, and for those that don't know, I do movie reviews. I'm part of the what's called the Critics' Choice Association, Ricky, where I actually get to vote at the Critics' Choice Awards. But the problem is I also have to watch all the movies, right? I don't decide. So there's one movie that's coming out, and I've been dreading it because based on the trailers, well, the trailers alone have haunted my dreams. And no, it's not a horror movie. It's a kid's movie. It's called, back me up on this, Clifford the Big Red Dog. November, when's it coming? Oh, man. It's coming up November 10th. Paramount is releasing it on Paramount Plus. You can find it in select theaters as well. This is based on a children's book series. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's this dog that's massive. He's red, and I think there might have been a cartoon or cartoon movies. But here's the thing, and for those that are watching, we'll show some clips, and for those that are listening, I mean, go Google it. This is a live action movie, and the visual design here, I don't know how this got greenlit. It looks like the dog has been soaked in blood.
Yes.
Right? The red is like weird. It's almost
very
like,
red.
It's a very weird red, and it just looks so off. I don't know if this will be this year's Cats. Okay, I'll let you speak on this. Are you seeing what I'm seeing, that this is just odd?
Yeah. So I'm going to come out and say that I'm actually surprised it took this long for them to make a Clifford movie, because when I was a kid, Clifford was everywhere. So I remember the books very vividly. So for me, it was like, like I said, I'm really surprised that it took them this long to make it. I watched the trailer. Yes, he absolutely looks like soaked in blood. It's kind of crazy, and it's also very CGI, obviously, so it's a little bit obvious. But I will say that, like, I don't know, the trailer brought it. There was one moment in the trailer that brought a tear to my eye, where the little girl's talking. Yes, I know. I was going into it expecting like to hate it. But there was one moment where she's talking to him about like how the world treats people, and I was like, "Aw, like it's a kid and their dog. Like this is a classic, like it's a classic story. Like
You're right. I know
Clifford. Yeah.
I always give movies the benefit of the doubt. The story might surprise me, maybe. Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the problem. When a trailer comes out like this, and the design of that main character gets such a negative reaction. Exactly.
Like Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah.
And that's what's surprising, is that this is the same production company. It's Paramount. And Paramount. Sonic, they redid it. They spent all the money. This one, they were like, we'll keep it. This is our dog. But I also have so many questions, like, when Clifford, that's big, he's massive, right? Like he's like
he's huge.
How does he fit through the doors in the house, right? Without breaking. God.
The logistics, I don't even think you should try to wrap your head around it. I have no idea. I'm not sure how he would fit in the house. He has to go through the garage, I guess.
And the bathroom situation?
You can't take him to the park. Yeah, I don't know. It's really. I mean, that's great. It's funny because I didn't even think about that because it's just it's a children's book. So when you break it down, yeah, it's probably he's probably very dangerous, and I doubt that you would even be allowed to keep that kind of an animal in your home. But I'm curious if they're gonna go like full on. The government wants Clifford, or I doubt it. But yeah, like he's a national like hazard at this point. Yeah, I don't know about the logistics of it, but I do like I said, I want to give the movie the benefit of the doubt, and I hope it's going to be like a good movie that parents can like watch with their kids and
Yes.
see their own dog in there in that relationship, or their own pet, or whoever you have. So like, but am I going to watch it in theaters? No, maybe I'll catch it if it comes out on Paramount Plus or whatever. But I was like saying, I'm just surprised they didn't do it sooner because it's such a big children's book and it was around for so long. So yeah, who knows?
I get it. Still dreading it. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to something that people are actually anticipating, and that would be The Witcher season number 2 is coming out. This is Henry Cavill reprising his role here, December 27th. So we have to wait a little bit, folks. But we did get that new trailer, which is kind of whet everyone's appetite for what's to come in season 2. Yeah. Based on your reaction, Ricky, and I didn't know if you were a fan or not. It sounds to me that you did watch that first one.
Oh man, I did more than that. I played the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt in 2015. I think I have 400 hours logged into that game. So I'm deep in the Witcher kind of game series. I know it's a series of books primarily, but I'm deep in there. So when Netflix announced it originally, I was like, what? This is actually happening? Like this is because it's such a celebrated series of games and books at this point. So yeah, I'm a big fan of The Witcher, and specifically Cavill. At first, I wasn't sure. Because Cavill's one of those guys. He's everywhere, right? Like he's Sherlock Holmes. He's Superman. He's everywhere, right? So like I just felt like it's unfair that Cavill gets to be Geralt as well. But he puts in the work. He's such a phenomenal actor, and he's got the physicality. He's got the work ethic. That when I saw that first season, I was like, who else could it have been? Like Cavill's great. So yeah, all this to say, I am a fan, and I am quite excited for season 2.
Yeah, no, and a lot of people, you're not alone. A lot of people are very much excited, and that's the thing. The first season was kind of like I don't want to say it was like a prequel to the actual stories, but it was like it was like, if you follow along the books, and I'm not the biggest hardcore fan, but from what I understand, there were little kind of short stories that led up to the main saga. So this second season looks like it's going to be the big stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. The first season, the thing a lot of people kind of had gripes about was the way that they played with chronology. And so you weren't sure if something was happening in the past, if it was happening in the future. And that to me was also quite confusing. Like I was confused. Bit, like taken back. I was confused generally. I was absolutely confused, and I had to watch some videos after. But then once you understand what they're trying to do, it's like, okay, it clicks into place. But the second one I think is going to be much more linear, much more straightforward.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. Once you watch the whole first season through, you kind of everything falls into place, and it's really great. I love the look of it, and that's the key, I think, for me, Ricky, when it comes to these shows that are like kind of high fantasy or very much set in those medieval times. You got to you can't half-ass it. You got to go all in.
Not after Game of Thrones. No
coffee.
Set the precedent. No coffee cups.
No coffee cups or water bottles. But otherwise, Game of Thrones nailed it.
Amazing, yeah. Up until the last season, maybe last 2, it was the best show on television.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, yeah, a lot of high hopes. I'm sure you're not alone in having, counting down to that second season. It's going to be big stuff. Okay, I want to talk about this next topic with you, Ricky, because I know in previous episodes of this program we've talked about your fandom for Marvel. You really enjoy those movies. I'm right there with you. I do love me some Marvel. Make mine Marvel all the time, especially the MCU. They rarely miss. Now, I have not made it a secret that the Eternals hasn't really piqued my interest. I don't know what my expectations are. And by the way, by the time this comes out, I think the movie will actually be in theaters. So a lot of people will have actually seen it. Now, critics have already seen it. And the Rotten Tomatoes score is interesting because now, as of this recording, it's at 60. Just right at it's still a tomato. It's not rotten for now. But now it's the lowest rated Marvel movie of all time. Does that worry you? I mean, I'm assuming you're still going to watch it.
Yes, yeah, I have my tickets for Friday, for this Friday, the November 5th, right? I pre-ordered tickets, and when we had previously spoken, I kind of had the same thing. I was like, I wasn't really super hyped for the movie. Like, it was a cast of people that I know from other movies that kind of just like cobbled together. The story was like kind of this bigger than the MCU, kind of zooming out of what we know right now. So it was a little bit like foreign in that sense. And seeing the Rotten Tomatoes score, I'll be honest, I wasn't going to go into this movie with high expectations in the first place. I expected it to be like middling in terms of a Marvel film, because it is one of those, like, I don't know if it's trying to recapture the magic of Avengers, or, you know, the ensemble cast of characters that we've come to love, but my expectations weren't high. So seeing that Rotten Tomatoes score kind of just confirms that, like, it's going to be like maybe a fun movie, but not necessarily like a standout MCU movie with the same character development that we've come to know. But the thing is, we've been very spoiled with Marvel, because it's very rare for a company to pump out those kinds of films with such high consistency. So I think we're getting a little bit carried away, man, with like what we're expecting. Like, they are so good on Disney Plus, they're so good in films that, like, we're almost like, well, if this isn't, you know, Black Panther, it's like, guys, it's a Marvel movie. Like, it's helping to flesh out the universe. They don't all have to be, right? They don't all have to be Academy Award nominees. Like, so no, I don't know. When it comes to that, I'm like, whatever.
No, you're right. And hey, listen, I mean, I talked about my love of movies, and I watch all the movies. I like when things are different, so not every movie should be the same. So this does look different from what Marvel has been doing. I like the director here, Chloe Zhao. She did the movie Nomadland, which won an Oscar. Some are saying maybe her style is visually exciting for Marvel, but maybe it doesn't translate as well to superhero and some of the action. Some of the criticism saying it's a little unfocused. I'm still, listen, like you, even though the hype is maybe a little muted, I'm still gonna watch it. Who am I kidding?
Watch it. Yeah, of course.
Still gonna see it. I think the cast has potential, but like I said, by the time our episode drops, people will have already seen it. So I encourage you to drop your comments and let us know if those Rotten Tomatoes critics got it right or wrong, because it's fallen kind of fast there. Before we move on, speaking of superhero films, which ones are not so good? Because Marvel, because the reason I'm saying this is that people might be wondering, what was the worst rated Marvel movie before Eternals? It was Thor: The Dark World. Yeah.
And I agree with that. I saw that in theaters, and I was just very underwhelmed. I'm not sure if it's just because, like, Thor only for me got interesting when he started doing the comedy stuff, the comedy bits in the movies.
Yeah.
You know, like when Taika Waititi kind of came in and took the helm. Before that, I guess the first movie was interesting to see him, but like he never really grabbed my attention as a character. I don't know why. Like Thor never really resonated with me until he started becoming this kind of like funny, like comic relief kind of character who was also very powerful. So yeah, I definitely think Dark World is a bit of a stain, if you want to call it that, on the MCU. And we'll see if Eternals lives up to what the critics are saying. But another one, I hadn't watched it, but I know a lot of people were also saying it was very middling, which was Black Widow. Now you watched it, so I'd like to know. Because I think that's the second. No. You liked it?
I like Black Widow. Yeah, 100%. I think Black Widow was pretty well done. I think it. I mean, listen, the fact that it was that we know her fate, right? This is a prequel movie. It kind of lessened some of that suspense. You're like, well, she's gonna live. It's gonna, what you kind of know what's gonna happen. Whereas a movie that's set in the present day, anything can happen, right? At least,
right.
You're led to believe that. So that was the only thing, but I think the performances were good. I think there was some decent action. That's a quintessential Marvel movie through and through.
Yeah.
My one, and I kind of want your opinion on this. My kind of Marvel movie that's not so great is Ant-Man, the first.
Yeah. Paul Rudd is so good, and I think like
him.
No matter what he does, I think like you're gonna like it because it's Paul Rudd. But then like he also carries a lot of stuff being Paul Rudd. So yeah, the first Ant-Man wasn't the strongest debut. I think Ant-Man just doesn't have that excitement factor too. So like it's a kind of a combination. Yeah, he doesn't have the star power. It's a Paul Rudd movie where you're going in and like Paul Rudd's a funny guy, So yes, it's actually very true. Like I do think Ant-Man has always been a little more like separated from the main MCU, and it's probably not the strongest entry. But I know like it's so important for the actual overall story. Like Quantumania is coming out relatively soon, and that's going to play a big part in how like we understand the multiverse. I'm assuming and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, important for the MCU, but I'd agree not the strongest debut or the most hype around just a hero in general. So yeah, I'd agree with you on that.
Yeah, and I think maybe I'm maybe just a little sour because the movie was originally going to be directed by Edgar Wright, who did films like Baby Driver and Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and he didn't end up doing it, and I was like, no, that would have been
missed opportunity.
Yeah, I think so. All right, Ricky, amazing stuff as always. I don't want you to go anywhere because we're going to continue our chat, but this time it's beyond the list. All right, this is the part of the show where we like to dig deep into Watch Mojo's vast archives of top 10 lists, pluck one out and go beyond that list with our own personal opinions and decide whether or not Watch Mojo got it right or wrong. Today, Ricky, this is fun because I love me some bad guys. The villains are sometimes my favorite characters in a movie or a TV show or in a comic or in a video game. They're sometimes the most interesting. Now, this list, however, is all about those movie supervillain castings that were not good. Okay, so these are the worst supervillain castings. This is really interesting to me because I pay attention to casting news a lot, and sometimes a casting choice will come out and I'll be like, I don't see it. And then sometimes the movie will come out and I'll be like, oh, good choice. Right. But sometimes, and as we'll see on this list, my instincts were right. So I'm expecting you to have seen a lot of these because I know you're a superhero fan. So let's get into number 10. And by the way, these are just performances that just didn't pan out, right?
Right.
I thought this number 10 on our list was kind of inspired, but again, the end result, not so much. I'm talking about Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy in Batman and Robin.
Yes. Okay, so I think that's why it's at number 10 because she's such a great actor that even I think it's the character does she just didn't understand how to capture that character. And I don't know if that's the director whose fault that is. I'm not sure if it's a director or what have you, but she obviously has a lot of talent and she's great, but she couldn't translate it to what the essence of Poison Ivy. So I think that's maybe a bit of a fault of lack of direction. That whole movie, got torn to shreds. So it's not just her who kind of fell short. Kind of the whole cast was just not there. So I think it was kind of a result of the chemistry wasn't there, and so the performance wasn't informed, and that led to what it is. Not to knock Uma Thurman, she's a legend, but yeah, I think it was more the whole package kind of just led her to be like, this is a good paycheck, this is good exposure. I don't resonate with this character necessarily. I don't have the deep, reason to play her or whatever it is. So just didn't pan out.
No, for sure. I think you're right. And by the way, I don't think there's any secret that we'll probably see another character and actor on this list as we get closer to the worst of the worst. But it's interesting that we haven't seen another Poison Ivy live action in a movie.
Yes.
I think the character popped up on Gotham. The TV series Gotham, I remember seeing that, and obviously animated. You'll see lots of Poison Ivy in the animated DC films and shows. But it'd be interesting to see who they might cast in a future
as the new Yeah, I'm really curious because I know that there's a relationship between Harley Quinn in the comics, and that would be a great story that I'd love to see. I'd love to see just Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy against the world. Give it to us, guy. Give it to us. Obviously Margot Robbie is incredible in her role. Yeah. I can't see anybody else doing it. So introduce another maybe Amy Adams. I don't know. Introduce somebody and maybe Amy Adams, right? Let's go. Anyways, yeah.
Ricky's thought about this. Okay. I like that though. No, it's such a great character to mind. So they just need to get the casting right. All right. Let's move on to number 9. This is a film called The Spirit. Came out in 2008. I do remember seeing this and I do remember being very disappointed with the movie. The actor in question here is Samuel L. Jackson. He's playing the big bad, the octopus. Did you ever see this? This is one of those it's a Frank Miller film, and it's very neo-noir. Yeah, exactly. Sin City. It came right after the heels of the success of Sin City and did not translate quite as well as that one. But yeah, this was kind of a very hammy performance, a lot of scenery chewing.
I watched clips from it. I didn't watch the full film, but it's just, Sam L. Jackson playing his typical quote unquote bad guy, tough as nails, no nonsense bullshit. Like, it's a very typical performance, I guess. And maybe just a character. Like, again, a lot of these could just be chalked up to the source material, or that the character themselves just wasn't well fleshed out. The direction wasn't well fleshed out. So I don't even know what a good performance of this character would look like. But if Samuel Jackson can't pull it off, I mean, I don't know who else is going to get to do it.
In this particular list, they're saying he was paying for trying maybe too hard to be overly dramatic and eccentric, and I saw that it was a case of maybe knock it down a little bit. Okay.
Yeah. Overplaying,
too much, a little too much. All right, number 8. Listen, okay, we're gonna get into it. Julian McMahon as Doctor Doom. They've never gotten Doctor Doom right in a movie. No. This is the Fantastic Four movie, by the way, in 2005.
Yeah.
I like the actor. I like Julian McMahon.
Me too. Charmed. I don't know if you remember from Charmed, but he was like a demon in Charmed, and he was obviously Nip Tuck, right?
Nip Tuck was his big one, yeah. And I thought in this movie, he was interesting. He was good at being that bad guy in this movie, but for the character Doctor Doom, it just didn't translate. That character is so different from what they've been trying to shove down our throats in these movies.
I know. Yeah, I also feel is another case of, at the time, the Fantastic Four, it wasn't like done right, in the sense that everybody was the whole franchise. You have what's his name? You have Chris Evans as Johnny
Storm.
Johnny Storm, which was a cool pick. I thought they did some of the casting right, but Doctor Doom, he just didn't bring anything that I was like, oh, I'm gonna remember this performance. It wasn't standout. It wasn't. I didn't hate him. I didn't hate him in it, but I don't know. Doom is this imposing, really terrifying kind of mastermind.
Yes.
He is above everybody. He's 10 steps ahead, and I never got the impression that he had that confidence. You know what I mean? I never got that impression.
No, you're so right. And if you look at the comics, the Marvel Comics history, and what those big stories that Doctor Doom's been a part of, you're right. Yeah. He should be right up there with your Thanoses and Kang as
he's
really
terrifying.
Yeah. So this
Super
movie
smart and terrifying,
and this performance maybe have ruined it. Hopefully, I'm almost positive that they're going to bring us a Doctor Doom very soon. Okay, let's move on to number 7 here. We got Wes Bentley as playing Blackheart. This was in Ghost Rider in 2007. Yeah. Speaking of never getting a character right, I don't think they've ever really got Ghost Rider right. This was the Nicolas Cage films. I don't even remember. To be honest, I would need to go back and watch it. But I think that says a lot when you don't even remember a performance or the villain.
I don't even know what the barometer is for how good that performance should be. For me, I don't know the villain. I don't know. I'm not a Ghost Rider fan, I guess, but I don't really know how he's supposed to. How should the acting have been? Would it really have saved anything? I think the answer is no. I think it's just another case of script was subpar, characters aren't well developed. You're over maybe a Samuel Jackson thing where you're trying to overact this demonic lord, but it comes off as kind of just cheesy and a lot of bad 2000s movies with bad writing, and don't forget that was the beginning of this superhero machine. So I don't fault a lot of these performances. I don't fault the actors. I just think they didn't know what the hell to do with these characters. They just didn't know. They're what do I do with this guy? He's a character. He's not. It was a departure from what's cinema was at the time. All these kind of deeper scripts, these bigger movies, and it's kind of you're on the roller coaster of superhero stuff, and you're trying to understand how to write these characters in a compelling way. And it took time to get right, and then we see the MCU and we see the success with that. So it's a progression, and we're looking back and seeing the bumpy parts in the road.
Yeah, we're seeing how it should be done now.
Right.
I'm going to stick with your early 2000s for number 6 on the list, because that was when Daredevil came out in 2003. We're talking Colin Farrell as Bullseye.
Oh man,
That movie, I did a recent rewatch maybe a year ago, and yeah, it doesn't hold up very well. Colin Farrell at least is entertaining,
yeah,
but over the top and just
cheese. It's cheese. At the end of the day, it's
it
like
is,
he's
yeah,
supposed to
good.
be a villain. He's using like cards. Like it's first off the premise of the character. I feel like it would be pretty hard to nail that like seriously without coming off as cheesy. But then like I guess Colin Farrell just leaned into it and he was like, "This is ridiculous. This is absurd. But like this is what I'm gonna play it up as." And it's like that's what you get. You get a guy who's like whipping sharp cards at a blind guy with extra sensory perception. Like that's what we got. Now look at look at what Netflix did and how they translated that character, and it's like, well, that's how it obviously should have been done, right? Like Daredevil's like fucking serious.
And to Colin Farrell's credit, he's actually gone out and said, "Yeah, that my bad. That was a
I
little
phoned
over
it
the top."
in. Yeah. Yeah.
I like when actors own up to it. By the way, guys,
They know what they're doing.
Of course, they know.
They know.
Who was it? George Clooney says he doesn't let his new wife watch Batman and Robin. He'll never let her watch it. Yeah. Oh, okay. Nice segue to number 5. And I can't believe this is only number 5. Watch Mojo. I would have put this way, way, way towards the bottom. Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze in Batman and Robin. How is this only number 5? This is probably this movie took me so long to actually complete it, because I remember the first time I watched it, I think I turned it off at that midway point. I couldn't take it anymore. Right. I attempted again years later. Same thing. I maybe got a little bit further, didn't watch it, and then yeah, it just took me so many tries to actually finish it. But he was a big problem for me not enjoying it.
He's just a meme at this point. Like this movie has been this role for me is so ingrained in pop culture that I can never take it seriously. It's Arnold like playing Mr. Freeze, and I actually love him for. I think it's hilarious. Like I love it because it's so bad. It's that's like now I'm like, who would have played Mr. Freeze? And like I'm trying to think, and I'm like, I don't even know. Like I don't actually know. Like Daniel Day-Lewis, like who the hell is gonna play Mr. Freeze? And then I think Arnold. Yeah, he was kind of horrible, but it was also. He's probably more talked about than if anybody else would have played that role. Like Mr. Freeze endured the test of time because Arnold played him. And I think like that's pretty amazing in its own weird, bad way.
And he got paid so much money to do it.
Of money.
An insane amount of money for him to agree to do it. And the other thing that's interesting is if you watch some of those behind the scenes or stories that come out of the making of the film, is that he didn't do a lot of those scenes. He had a lot of stunt doubles. Like there's scenes with him and Chris O'Donnell, who plays Robin, and he's
Robin,
like,
right,
yeah, we never. He's like
you never
barely
fought. Yeah.
No, never fought, never met. So Schwarzenegger just did the close-ups.
That's right. Yeah.
Good
for him.
Got to say the lines that we all hate, and that was it. Okay, yeah, like I said, I probably would have dropped him maybe number 2 or even 1. I'm interested to see who's worse.
Because he's so iconic.
Okay, we're sticking with it with Batman here. This movie is Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice, 2016. We're talking Lex Luthor. We're talking Jesse Eisenberg. Very divisive
much hair.
Yeah, and the one scene that comes to mind is, I believe it's a Jolly Rancher that he just remember.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about? He shoves a Jolly Rancher in someone's mouth. I was like, what is happening?
It was like mukbang stuff. I was like, what are you doing? Like, you're Lex Luthor. Like, Lex Luthor is the like anti-Superman. He's a genius. He's imposing too, he's like big and he's bald and he's scary. He's like in Daredevil, Wilson Fisk. He's got that same Fisk energy, right? He's this big, hulking, smart mastermind guy. And Jesse Eisenberg was kind of this like meek, kind of like under the radar, like genius. But I just didn't feel. I felt like Superman could just punch him in the face and he's dead. Like I didn't get that feeling that Superman should be scared and Batman should be scared of this guy. Like,
yeah, he's supposed to be a
knock on.
No, and you're right.
He's great. I just wrong casting, bad casting. No,
it was.
I don't know why. I don't know why they chose him. He's like Zombieland. Like he's not. It's like putting Michael Cera in the role. Like what? No. Like no. Go back. Go back.
Yeah, like you can make a Lex Luthor not physically intimidating, but you really need to play up his genius intellect part, and they didn't come across in this. He came across as super awkward, like you said, not imposing in the least. I didn't believe it, and he was doing these weird kind of choices with the way he was talking. Yeah, it was a big miss for me. So yeah, and again, like you said, too much hair.
Too much hair.
Lex Luthor's bald. That's how we like him. We like a bald Luthor. Yeah. Okay, I forgot about our number 3. So yeah, maybe I won't disagree too much with January Jones as Emma Frost in X-Men First Class. The reason I remember this is because I'm a huge Mad Men fan. Mad Men has January Jones as Betty Draper. And I remember seeing her cast in an X-Men movie, and I was like, what? This is gonna be great. And you could have replaced her with a cardboard cutout and got the same results. Because she's got a lifeless delivery every single scene.
Yeah, it's another case of like I'm so used to seeing her in this very intense dramatic role as Don Draper's wife, the shit that he puts her through, and then she's supposed to be this kind of like really strong, like not evil but ruthless, kind of like
vicious,
and she
seductive.
just was flat, like you said, like not inspired. I felt no motivation behind what she wanted to do. Like the character I didn't feel any need to like be powerful or to conquer this, this team. Like it was underwhelming in every sense. Like it's like you said, cardboard cutout.
It was a bust. It was a bust. All right, we're getting close, folks. We're getting close. Each one I'm going to judge, see if they're worse than Arnold. Okay, number 2 is, who do we got here? Oh, I don't know if I agree too much here. Okay, it's probably going to butcher the name. Cara Delevingne as the Enchantress in Suicide Squad 2016.
Yeah.
I mean, she wasn't, that character and the villain, the big bad for such a big movie, not good.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's
not good.
What really could she have done differently? Was she the problem?
No, I'm going to say that it was the editing. It was the fact that they just sped through everybody's kind of character bio. They just wanted to get to like the action. I look, she's obviously a model. She came into acting relatively recently. So maybe that's why they gave her a bit of flack. I thought she was pretty good in her role. Now, again, maybe not memorable in the sense that like, oh, wow, like a defining villain, but like, I think if you look at anybody in that movie, you can find a problem except for maybe Harley Quinn. I think everybody you can find that this wasn't that great. And I think that's just the overall, again, the direction, the tone of the movie, the way that it was edited, the way it was done. It didn't give characters enough time to breathe, didn't give you time to sit with them, to care about them. And especially for a villain, like, a villain is supposed to be this deep, like there's a reason for all this hatred, there's a reason for all this like anger, there's more to that. And again, just not really fleshed out, very heavy on the special effects. So is it number 2? I don't believe it's number 2 personally. I don't believe it's number 2. But yeah, it definitely, and I think again, the villain choice, like who is, like most people don't necessarily know the Enchantress. I know she's pretty powerful, but like it's not the first one I would have thought of. So I don't know.
I think you're absolutely right. All right, let's get to some honorable mentions here. These are interesting as well. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Jamie Foxx as Electro. Disappointing.
Yeah, disappointing. It was just weird. It's just like the way they made him like a nerd, and all like it's like Jamie Foxx. I can't get somebody else. Get somebody else.
It didn't work. And what's more disappointing is leading up to the movie, Jamie Foxx was like, "Get ready for a villain like you've never seen before." It's so great. And I remember being like, "Oh, he's won." Listen, Jamie Foxx is a great actor. The guy's won Academy Awards. He can really get into a role. And when it came out, I was like, "Really? This is the choices you were talking about?"
It's a bad writing. I just feel bad writing, good actors and bad writing. It's just not good.
Yeah. Peter Sarsgaard as Dr. Hector Hammond in Green Lantern. That was a guy that, remember, his head got all big.
I watched Green Lantern. I try to avoid that movie at all costs. So I'll take the word for it.
Don't ever watch it. Don't ever watch it. Toby Kebbell as, oh, we got another Doctor Doom. This was a fan four stick. Remember, it was fantastic with the four.
Another failed Doom, probably another one that I didn't watch because it just left a sour taste. I'm not doing that until the MCU does it, you know, like until the MCU says we're taking the Fantastic Four, I let go of that series. So I'll take their word for it. You know, Doom not done right.
Yeah, and really bad. And again, I'm not going to fault the actor because I think he's actually said in previous interviews that he was excited to take on the character and really do some interesting things with him. But they completely changed it. That was a studio meddling, and
that's always I hate that. It just ruins the integrity of the whole project.
Yeah, just pick a vision, stick with it, guys. All right, here we go. Number one. Oh, this is interesting, and I'm interested on your take because I know you like some Spider-Man. Spider-Man 3 came out in 2007. Venom made his big screen debut, and it was Topher Grace. Yes, from that 70s show was Venom as Eddie Brock. Yeah, as far as performances and acting as a big milestone character like Venom, this was not good.
Yeah, I remember going to the theater, and I am a huge Spider-Man fan, and I remember watching that movie and being like, what the hell did they do? For so many reasons. First off, Topher Grace is Eric for me, okay? Like, he's Eric for everybody. He's Eric Foreman. So when you say Eric Foreman is playing Venom, I'm already like, what the hell are you doing? Eddie Brock is a freaking bully. He's this big guy. He's like a journalist. Like, he's not Topher Grace, who got, you know, some muscle on him after that 70s show Money. Like, it just, the casting right from the get-go, I think the perception of Venom was just kind of ruined for a lot of people because they just saw Eric Foreman, and that was the number one mistake they made from the beginning. And then number two was the design of Venom. Like, supposed to be this hulking monster of a symbiote, like Spider-Man is like dying for his life, and all I got was like the dark Spidey suit with bad eyes, and just like the mouth was not done. Like, it was a perfect storm of just bad casting, uninspired, just CGI, and at the same time, when you put Venom in a movie, you give Venom the spotlight. Like, don't give it to Sandman. No. You give Venom the spotlight. He is the movie. It's Spider-Man versus Venom. So like the fact that they tried to shoehorn in, like, you know, let's make it this big thing, and it was like
Hobgoblin. Like, they tried
Hobgoblin.
To do all of them.
It's like Sam Raimi's like, I don't know if I'm gonna get another shot at this. Let's do them all in one shot. And I was like, you completely botched it. Like, not only was the casting bad, not only was the CGI bad, but like, you didn't give Venom the respect and attention that it needs. He is the most, in my opinion, and I think the most loved villain in the Spider-Man universe, him and Carnage, because they're just so scary and so like such a threat to Spidey, essentially. Like, they're really like the biggest threat to Spidey at that point. So they just, they didn't give him the attention they needed, and the casting was Eric Foreman. No.
No, you're absolutely right. I think you're right. I remember being incredibly disappointed in that problem had a villain issue with, like you said, trying to shoehorn way too many, trying to sell toys. No. Yeah. And Venom deserves a lot better. Are you a fan of the Tom Hardy Venom?
Yes, I actually am. Yeah, I actually saw Carnage when it came out, and I really enjoy. I think Tom Hardy's just so good. Like, he's such a fun character. He's such a fun actor to watch on screen. You know, and he's doing all these scenes by himself, right? So
yeah, he does the voice.
He does everything. When you think of it like that, I'm just like, this is great. Like, this is great. It's like a buddy comedy, you know, because this is the Lethal Protector, right? Like, it's different. Like, it's not the Venom that you might know, who's like a bad guy. He's a good guy, but you know, and I like that because you see that internal. He's trying to be good, but he knows that like there's this thing that wants to just kill and eat people. So there's this back and forth that I think Tom Hardy just pulls off so well, and I love his interpretation of it. I think they did a good job. I think they made it funny. I think they made it. I know the critics are going to say, you know, whatever the critics say, but like, they got the design right. Okay, he looks amazing. Like, he is this hulking monster, and that's what I was like. You guys nailed it. He rips things apart. He's like, you know, going on buildings, like destroying things. Like, that's what Venom is. He's pure just chaos. It's great.
No, absolutely. And you're right. And sticking with kind of this list, the casting of Tom Hardy was genius because we already knew he could go and do interesting things with characters. Look what he did with Bane in The Dark Knight. I mean, who would have thought that was Tom Hardy could do all this interesting things?
It's amazing. And with his acting with his eyes, just acting with his eyes against Christian Bale, like that's not an easy person to act against. So he was a great choice, and he's leading that franchise. I mean, like I'm happy. I'm really happy with what they've done, what Sony's done with that franchise.
Yeah, and no spoilers, of course, but if you do watch that movie, stick around for the mid credits because it looks like some more interesting things are on the way.
Yeah.
Ricky, I can't thank you enough for joining us here again on the program. Always wonderful to chat with you. And speaking of chat, well, it's time for our Mojo Chats of the week. Guess what? I had a chance to sit down with some of the cast, director, and producer of the Netflix film Army of Thieves. Check it out. If you are a fan of Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, then good news, a prequel is upon us. That's right. Army of Thieves is coming to Netflix, and I'm so excited. I got Zack, I got Matthias to tell me all about it. Let's have some fun here. Zack, I'm going to start with you. I read that you described this as genre busting. Explain the genres we're busting in this movie.
I mean, we made a little movie called Army of the Dead that was on Netflix. A couple of people saw it. I guess whatever, 85 million, whatever it is, it's fine. But so in that movie, we were just sort of saying, I really wanted to just take the zombie genre and take it apart, and the ticking clock and the heist, and just go for the tropes as deep as we could. And so then we started to talk, Matthias and I were talking about like doing this Dita prequel and maybe doing a romance and a heist and like the Italian Job and like all those European heist movies. And then also, in addition, the romance part of it, how could we use all those same tropes and bust all of those tropes in the same way we did? And that's kind of was the origin and sort of the why of this, and why it's almost an entirely different genre to Army, but does the same sort of self-reflexive job on the genre.
Yeah, no, it really does. You guys do a great job of it. And a lot of that rests obviously on the director. Matthias, that would be you. Now, here's the thing. You're not only the director, you're also the star. And we're not talking like a little bit part here. You're the main guy. Now, I've read and heard directors say, no, you shouldn't act in your own movie. And then I've heard others say they enjoyed the experience. What was your experience on here? Because the end product was really fun.
Yeah, the experience, I have to say, because the experience, and Dave Bautista said it in an interview when we did what we did on Army of the Dead, because Zack was the DP of Army of the Dead, and that changed the perspective because Zack was always with us. He was always in the scene, he was always around us, in between us, and filming. So, and it was the same with me in Army of Thieves, because for the other actors, it was cool because they never saw a director. They just had the director in between them. So it was great to guide them through a scene while maybe changing or do some improv on stuff, just to guide them into the direction I wanted to, so that was cool.
It was cool. Yeah. Before we go, last question. We here and Watch Mojo celebrate all things popular culture. And obviously a big part of that is the heist genre where this movie falls into. And I'm wondering if there's one particular movie that you could recommend or you suggest, or maybe one that you saw in that heist genre that stayed with you. Zack, is there one that comes to mind?
Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. Do you know that movie?
I have.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a good one. I like it.
Clint Eastwood movie.
Yeah, it's so great. Can't beat it. Well, maybe Matthias will. What's your heist pick?
We just, I think we will go for the original Italian Job.
Yeah, classic. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm sure your movie will fall in a lot of people's lists after they see it, and we encourage everyone to do just that. Thanks so much, gentlemen. Have a great rest of your day. All right, it is the prequel to Army of the Dead. It's Army of Thieves. And listen, I saw it. I had so much fun. And I can't wait to talk to Stuart and Goose all about it. Stuart, let's start with you. This movie is a little bit different than Army of the Dead, right? It's we're playing with some different genres. This is a prequel, obviously, so I don't expect the big zombie stuff. But maybe you can set the stage and let people know what they can expect out of it.
Totally different genre, as you say, from Army of the Dead, but that same universe. So it follows Dieter's character, and we find out where he's come from and how he ends up being where he is at the start of Army of the Dead. It's a great heist film. It's got a lot of action in there. Matthias is hilarious in it. Goose is hilarious in it. Nat, everyone's got their lovely comedy bits. And it's just a really fun Saturday night movie.
Yeah, and it really is. It's fun. And I hated your character, by the way. I hope you don't take that personally.
This is what I'm worried about, man. I suddenly, Goose, have I got to be worried? I suddenly started thinking,
dude, bro, you know what, right? You know what, brother?
Twitter.
I didn't even want to break it to you, but I mean, Brad's a prick.
I know, well, I always, because you justify it when you were playing the character.
That's what
yeah. And then you suddenly don't think, oh, hold up. Matthias's character is so loved, and then I am. So do you think I should be worried, guys?
No, do you know what, bro? There's nothing to, I was going to say, sorry, Matt, there's nothing to worry about, because when people know who Stuart Martin really is, they're going to be like, fuck it, this geezer, he's an actor. To be such a lovely, beautiful beefcake in real life, but be that horrible prick on Netflix. This is incredible shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
are you tweeting out my address right now? Don't.
You did your job well, Stuart. Is the point I was getting at? Because
like to hear.
Love to hate. I think that's the term. Goose,
yeah,
let me switch to you. Goose, this was a fun movie to watch, and I always wonder, to be an actor in these movies where you got this kind of team dynamic. What was your experience like on set working with these people? Give us a little behind the scenes taste.
I mean, look, first of all, everybody is dope, and I think that's an important vibe that I try and have on every set that I go to. Like, there's no room for negative vibes or pretentious people. We're there to do a job. We're in the middle of a pandemic. At the time we were filming this, no vaccines. People didn't know that if they got COVID, how bad it would be. So I think everybody, including like all of the crew, everybody behind the scenes was so brave to come out and, really get this done, when we could have just taken the L and sat at home, eating all those Pringles and getting fatter than I already am. So we went out, we were invited out to Prague. And to be honest with you, just being surrounded by people who wanted to make something good, it's such a basic thing. But if everybody had that on their sets across the world, we'd have a lot better stuff, bro.
Absolutely.
True, bro. True.
And before we go, last question. We here on Watch Mojo, we celebrate all things pop culture and all things movies. One of the genres we love is the heist genre. Other than this film, Goose, Stuart, give me your favorite heist film. One that you might recommend.
My film, Goose.
This film called Money Train, bro. You remember that?
Oh, yes. Yes, Money Train. I love it. Stuart, what's your heist go-to?
Point Break.
Oh, good one.
But also the Ocean's films.
Yeah.
The Ocean's films.
I'm a sucker for George Clooney. What can I say? Gentlemen, I'm a sucker for this movie as well. We encourage everyone to check it out over there on Netflix. Guys, I'm so excited to chat with you. I was such a big fan of Army of the Dead, and when I heard there was going to be a prequel, I was all in, and I got to say I had an immense amount of fun watching it. And I kind of want to get a sense from you whether or not that fun translated behind the scenes. And be honest, because sometimes it can be a pretty business-like, film set. Nathalie, let's start with you. What was your experience? Because you had a lot to do in this film. You had a really great character. What was your experience on it?
It was fantastic. Yeah, it definitely was a lot of fun behind the camera. And yeah, I think it's safe to say that any film set, the days are long. Sometimes the conditions aren't always comfortable. And sometimes there's less fun days for sure. And there are days that are a bit more about business, and yeah, absolutely. But I think as a group, we had a lot of fun together, and there was definitely some days where we got the giggles and couldn't stop laughing and had just like a great time. And which obviously doesn't sound that professional, but we did. But we definitely had, we had fun. And for me, like a lot of my kind of joy came out of doing these fight scenes, and the work that went into that, and the challenge of that was really, really, it was a real challenge. And
wait, Nathalie, did you do your own fights choreography?
Yeah, well, obviously we have this incredible stunt team that taught me it.
Wow.
But yeah, I did. I had to really get my fists involved. It was great, and I felt like I achieved something. Like I just achieved something. I was so proud of it, and I'm so proud of how it looks in the movie.
No, you did. You nailed it. You kicked some major button there, and like I said, you got a wonderful arc, and we won't give spoilers, of course, but good stuff there. Ruby, let's switch over to you. I mean, you're part of this this team, this caper team, which I always thought would be fun. And not that I'm going to rob or crack a safe or anything. I'm not putting together a team. Okay, don't hit me up. But I always thought that'd be fun. Was this a fun character for you to play?
For sure, definitely. I was so happy to like be able to have the chance to play a character like this, because I haven't yet. So I was really excited to like show different sides of myself and of acting. So I was really happy, and the story is amazing, and also the whole crew and all the team, Nathalie and Stuart and Matthias and stuff. So, and Goose, it's just, it was amazing.
And the end result is amazing as well. Before we go, we here on Watch Mojo, we celebrate all things pop culture. And obviously part of that is the heist movie genre. And there's lots of great ones out there. And I've been asking you guys and your cast members to pick one that you might recommend with some of your favorites from that genre. Maybe one, Ruby, other than this movie, because I think that'll be on some favorite lists after they watch it. But is there a heist film that you really enjoyed?
Yeah, we were talking about it before. I didn't remember anything because I forget. So I'm really bad at names. But I was thinking about it, and there is this one movie which is not that, I don't know if it's that known. It's called Victoria, and it's like a one shot, and they also heist a bank and stuff, and that's a great movie. So that does sound good. Nathalie, last word for you.
Well, this is kind of like a non-conventional choice, but one of the best like heisty type movies, which is also about robbing banks, was Set It Off. That was like one of the kind of early, like, I mean, obviously it's a drama as well, but it definitely is a kind of heisty movie too, where this kind of gang of women start to rob banks, kind of.
Well, hey, listen, if you're into heisty movies and you want action and, hey, a little bit of a love story, you're going to want to check out this one over there on Netflix. Thank you so much, ladies. Have a great rest of your day. All right, that's going to do it for another episode, everybody. My thanks to Ricky for joining in on all the fun. And of course, everyone out there for Netflix's Army of Thieves. Such a great film. We encourage everyone to check it out. And hey, thank you for watching and listening. As always, you got something for me to chat about, drop it in the comments. We would love to hear from you. Till next time, I'm Mr. Hollywood, and I've been popping the culture.